In any case, so he takes her straight to the cemetery. I already told you what happens. Normally you'd go there in your car and go parking, and I did. And after that, I was a little leery about going to cemeteries again in that situation. So and he takes her there, and it's line 5, then desire her and kiss her and all the preliminaries. And you know what preliminary to what? To the main events, of course. However, this is the 50s, and unlike the hookup culture of today, which I don't know anything about other than sounds kind of, a little too much. That old stereotype. The man says yes, the woman says, no, not so fast. I'm not ready to do this. That's the age-old stereotype, interplay between men and women when it came to, dating, sex, and that kind of stuff. So they're doing all the preliminaries. In the line 6, the speaker says, she going just so far. That's it. And his reaction, oh, I understand why. It's okay. Not getting angry. He says in line 7, you must feel. Feeling is enough. It's beautiful to feel. Well, that would be the conventional, cliched, kind of societal, accepted response by the woman and by him. But as I said, he's trying on these shoes and they just don't fit, because in the next line, what does he say? No, I'm not doing that. It says, instead, take her in my arms and lean against an old crooked tombstone and woo her, love her, the entire night, the constellations in the sky, while the constellation, the stars, go through the sky. So he's going to make love to her. He's not going to do the conventional thing when it comes to dating. All right, next stanza. What's the next stage? You've met the girl. You're getting serious. Well, you got to meet the parents. And that was kind of a whole thing, a whole ritual kind of thing that would happen. And so let's pick it up there with line 11. When she introduces me to her parents, back straightened, hair finely combed, strangled by a tie. I guess you did wear a tie when you met the parents back then? Should I sit knees together on their third-degree sofa? What does that mean, third-degree sofa? Now, again, I've told you guys you've got to look up vocabulary. Now, the third degree is actually a reference to a type of interrogation. And if you look at some of the old movies from the 30s and 40s maybe, and even the 50s, police kind of stories, when they catch the suspect, well, how do they get him out? They get the information, the confession out of him. Well, they give him what's called the third degree. And that's a very severe, strong, extreme perhaps, questioning, where they might use a rubber hose that has lead inside the rubber on one end, so you can beat the guy and not really, cut him up or anything. Or maybe just slap him around. That's called the third degree. This was before the Miranda rights and all of the rights that suspects have today, etc. Well, we use this third degree to mean generally today, anytime someone gives you strong questioning. So the parents are going to question him and give him the third degree. That's why it's the third degree sofa. In any case, should he sit together on their third degree sofa and not ask, where's the bathroom? Well, you can see it's supposed to be funny. That may not be the most, the best way to begin an introduction, to ask them, where's the bathroom at that moment. He just doesn't fit in. So in any case, he goes on, how else to feel other than I am? Often thinking Flash Gordon soap. Now here's one of those superheroes, I guess, to go with some of the, more negative cultural creations of the 50s. So Flash Gordon was a superhero, but what's Flash Gordon's soap? Is it a bar of soap made to look like Flash Gordon, or is it just one more of those irrational expressions? But that's him, and he's not normal in the conventional way. Again, he's a beat poet. He's tired of conventionality. Oh, how terrible it must be for a young man seated before a family, and the family thinking, we never saw him before. He wants our Mary Lou. After tea and homemade cookies, they ask, what do you do for a living? Should I tell them? Would they like me then, when they find out he doesn't have a job? Yeah, right. Say, all right, get married. We're losing a daughter, but we're gaining a son. And again, that's kind of a cliche. You may have heard that yourself. And should I then ask, where's the bathroom? Yeah. So, again, he doesn't fit in the normal way. But we move on. We've met the parents, we've gotten serious, and we have the wedding. So we can see in line 26, oh God, and the wedding. All her family and her friends, and only a handful of mine, all scroungy and bearded, just waiting to get at the drinks and the food. And the priest, he looking at me as if I masturbated, asking me, do you take this woman for your lawful wedded wife? And I trembling what to say, pie glue. Now, again, this is another one of those expressions, pie glue, but it rhymes with I do. Do you take the woman to be your lawful wedded wife? And normally you'd say I do. He says pie glue. I guess because he's a beat poet. I kissed the bride, all those corny men slapping me on the back. She's all yours, boy. Ha ha ha. And in their eyes, you could see some obscene honeymoon going on. Yeah, they're imagining what's going to happen. Then all that absurd rice and clanky cans and shoes. I guess people don't throw rice today so much when the couple leave to go on their honeymoon because they're worried about the birds. But back then, everyone threw rice. They tied the cans to the back of the car and the shoes as well. Conventional, cliched activities. And where did they go? Well, back in that day, perhaps the most popular honeymoon destination was, believe it or not, Niagara Falls, up there on the Canadian border in New York. Hordes of us, husbands, wives, flowers, chocolates, all streaming into cozy hotels. And yes, they were known for all these kind of chintzy, cheesy, whatever, honeymoon hotels. All going to do the same thing tonight. And we know what that is. They're on their honeymoon. The indifferent clerk, he knowing what was going to happen. The lobby zombies, they knowing. Now we've had werewolves and now we have zombies. But lobby zombie is an expression. It's still in use today. If you stay at a hotel, sometimes, I've had this happen. You get up and, you got to go about your day. You get up in the morning early and there's somebody sitting there reading a newspaper or hanging out in the lobby of the hotel. And you come back at 6 in the evening and they're still there hanging out in the lobby, that same person. I guess it's the Day of the Living Dead, some kind of thing, the lobby zombies. But we use that expression today as well. So there's people hanging out in the in the lobby, and they see people going up to their honeymoon suite, and they knowing what's going to happen, he says. And back in that day, they also you often had a elevator man. You didn't punch your own button in the elevator. You had a guy whose job it was to punch it for you. He wore a kind of little uniform, and you'd get in and he'd say, floor please, and you'd say 4, and he'd punch 4. Well, he knowing what's going to happen, the speaker says. And the bellboy, the guy that carries your luggage up, he knowing. Everybody knowing, he says. I'd almost be inclined not to do anything. Stay up all night, stare that hotel clerk in the eyes, screaming, I deny honeymoon. I deny honeymoon. Running rampant into those almost climactic suites, yelling, radio belly, cat, shovel. Okay, here's some more of those expressions we talked about. Right there. Oh, I'd live in Niagara forever in a dark cave beneath the falls. I'd sit there, the mad honeymooner, devising ways to break marriages, a scourge of bigamy, a saint of divorce. So, the wedding, the honeymoon, does he do it the normal way? Can he fit in? Can he get married? Doesn't look like it. But, the next line, but I should get married. I should be good. How nice it'd be to come home to her and sit by the fireplace, and she in the kitchen, aproned, young and lovely, wanting my baby. And so happy about me, she burns the roast beef and comes crying to me, and I get up from my big papa chair saying, Christmas teeth, radiant brains, apple deaf. God, what a husband I'd make. So you can see here, that, when women got married back in that day, women didn't have the employment opportunities, the jobs available to them. They often had low-level jobs, or they were teachers or nurses. And then they got married and they were expected to stay home and be a housewife, cook, take care of the kids. This was kind of the cliche. I mean, of course, not all women did that absolutely. But that was kind of the norm, the cliche, and he's trying it on again, and as you might expect, rebelling against it. And so we have the business about you know, he comes home from work, she's in the kitchen, she's burning the roast beef. I'm thinking of probably some I Love Lucy show. You may remember I Love Lucy, or look it up on YouTube. Something like that happens. And she comes crying to me, and I get up from my big papa chair. She's aproned, young and lovely, wanting my baby. These are all kinds of cliches. And what does he say? He says, Christmas teeth, radiant brains, apple deaf. So are those expressions of frustration, of acceptance, these irrational points of view? I mean, maybe he's just kind of logically speechless in order to try to answer the situation. In any case, he says, line 60, God, what a husband I'd make. Yes, I should get married. So much to do. Like sneaking into Mr. Jones's house late at night and cover his golf clubs with 1920 Norwegian books. Well, keeping up with the Joneses, you've maybe heard that expression. And everyone was keeping up with the Joneses back that time when the suburbs were being developed. And what did you do with your leisure time? Well, golf became very big. People joined golf clubs and played golf. And you had you bought a set of golf clubs. It was a thing in your suburban house, in your suburban lifestyle. But what does he do? He puts on these 1920 Norwegian books on top of the golf clubs. Well, Norwegian literature is really dark. I mean, we did A Doll's House, and really that's kind of a dark play, as you guys know, when we went through that. And, you know, you look at some of the films back in the early 20th century, they'll have characters like Death on a beach getting ready, the wind's blowing, and he's getting ready to, you know, take people wherever death takes you. I'm thinking of Ingmar Bergman films and things like that. It's pretty dark stuff. It's not your normal suburban kind of values from the 50s in America. And then we got this character Rimbaud, and there's a note in your version, if you look at the bottom, he was a painter. He was also a very disgusting human being. If I remember correctly, he was a pedophile. And it says, hanging picture of Rimbaud on the lawnmower. Well, that lawnmower is certainly, even today, a symbol of our suburban lifestyle. You have your little lawn behind your fence, and you cut the lawn. That's a kind of a thing you do. Saturday, maybe, after you get back from work. And what about that fence? The ideal would be a white picket fence, and he says he's going to paste Tanya Tuva postage stamps. Now, Tanya Tuva, of course, is some, you know, exotic, faraway place. You can look at the note down below. And so when he encounters each of these kind of cliched activities, situations, he doesn't do it the normal way. What happens when the Mrs. Kindhead comes to collect for Community Chest? Well, Community Chest is like United Way, you know, the United Way charity, and back in the day. And so Mrs. Kindhead, she's kind. Well, she comes and seeks a donation. What does he do? Line 66. He grabs her and tells her, there are unfavorable omens in the sky. Well, you know, the beat poets never had any money anyway, at least they pretended to be poor. And a lot of them took boxcars when they traveled across the country. You know, they hopped on trains, freight trains and that kind of thing. But that's a whole other story. You should study the beats sometime. Okay, it's time to move on to part 3.